Welcome to the Going North podcast, where you will be encouraged, informed, and empowered to embrace your dreams and advance in life through authorship. I'm your host, best-selling author, certified leadership trainer, and book enthusiast Dom Brightman. Be sure to check out the goods and services from every guest, as well as some of the books from yours truly, the host. Now let the fun begin. And today on the Going North podcast, where we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today is no different. But I'm excited about today's guest, my goodness, because I love it when folks take old cliches and do something new with them. Because today's author is a best-selling author. Because this fabulous lady right here, my goodness, a fellow podcast host, and also a founder of The Brim, and she's going to tell you more about that soon. She's also a sought-after coach, speaker, trainer, and guide to her clients, breaking out of their silent scream and success into true fulfillment. As a nationally recognized public speaker and business coach, this fabulous lady right here spent more than 15 years, folks, 15 years, helping businesses, entrepreneurs, and employees identify what's getting in their way and breaking down those barriers to success. And this awesome woman right here earned a degree in human and organizational development from Vanderbilt University and followed that by earning her law degree. I got a lot of lawyers coming on the show all of a sudden. This is going to be interesting. And spending more than 10 years practicing labor and employment law, advising small companies, as well as the giants like FedEx and Michelin. And in addition to that, she grew passionate about the growth of businesses, moving beyond the law practice. She became an entrepreneur, starting her own business in coaching. And here she discovered her true passion, helping others make the bold choices that lead to lasting success. So let's give it up for the fabulous lady right here, Miss SH herself, Miss Sally Holder. How you doing today, ma'am?
I'm good. Thank you for that very kind introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, indeed. It's good to have you, indeed. When your PR folks was like, all right, so I got this guest for you. It's like, hey, Hidden Rock Mid. I'm like, yo, dude, heck yes.
Yeah, it is definitely a concept that's resonated with a lot of people, and I'm excited that it has for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Dwayne Johnson before he became a movie star, Rock Middle.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was going for.
All right, good. All right, I figured out the secret. That's good. That's right. It's the true secret right there. So, as with all introductions are not allowed to be 55 days long, so am I filling in any cavities where I missed some fillings about the sensational Sally?
I think you pretty well got it. I spent 10 years practicing law. Despite being successful in that arena, I always really had this urge to do something different. And I always felt like I was kind of uh, putting on a mask and doing something that the rest of the world viewed successful, but I never found fulfilling. And so I really wanted the ability to make a change, but I never could figure out exactly how to go about doing that. Whenever I considered making a change and would go to my family or friends and say to them, hey, I really don't want to practice law anymore, I'm not loving it, they kept saying, but you're so successful, but you're successful. And so, I realized that oftentimes there is a disconnect between what we show the outside world, this external view of things, and how we feel about things internally. And I needed to value how I felt internally more than I valued other people's opinions of what success should look like. And I needed to value this sense of fulfillment more. And eventually that's what I did, and made the change to create my own company and pursue entrepreneurship and be able to pursue this this world of coaching, and it's what I feel like I'm meant to do. And once I did that, I vowed, well, I'm going to go back and create this roadmap for other people to be able to do the same. If they're feeling that same sense of frustration and emptiness in a career that they chose a long time ago, then I want them to have the roadmap to get out of it and to create the life and the dreams that they've always known that they're capable of having. And so that's really what the book is intended to do, is kind of go back, reach down, and help anybody else that was struggling in the same way that I was. So it's a little bit more in depth of me and, how I got where I am today.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's great that you're getting that message out there and helping folks really help find that inner fulfillment. Because I think that's the piece that's missing for a lot of folks. And what I love about you is that you're a fellow Christian and you're from South Carolina. Funny enough, that's actually where a lot of my family is at the moment. So it's great to connect on that piece. And a lot of folks tend to chase this thing called success when it means different things to different people, and they chase it. And when they get that form of it, they usually find themselves like, all right, I got this thing now. I got this thing now. I got the image, but the things that they do to hold up that image, it's a totally different story.
Absolutely. That's the thing that's so interesting to me now, is that everyone does define success differently, and yet we're all kind of sold this one model, this one idea of, you know work as hard as you possibly can, and then one day you're sort of going to be given this, yeah, I kind of jokingly call it like, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and believing that that pot of gold is going to be the end all be all. And then you get there and you realize, oh my gosh, this was not what I was wanting. I didn't want necessarily just the pot of gold. For me, the pot of gold was a sense of fulfillment and contentment and joy. And the end of the rainbow didn't come with any of that for me. And so, I needed to go back to the beginning and figure out, okay, well, how do I create a completely different path that's going to take me to a very different pot of gold? And, I had to go back and be able to figure all of that out, get to know myself better, get to understand what my definition of success is, and not just blindly be following the path that society set out for me.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's so true because a lot of folks really don't do that self reflection until after they feel like they've gotten, I guess in this case, to their rock middle in a way.
Yeah. As I was kind of saying earlier, the definition of rock middle came from that point in my life and career where I was successful. And I kept coming to people saying, I would love to create something different, a totally different career. And I was discouraged because I had a certain level of success. And so I figured out, gosh, I mean, there must be something that we can call this space, this middle space in our lives and careers where it's not fulfilling, and where we, aren't at the bottom, right? We're not at rock bottom because we have success, but we're not also at the top, right? We're not at the level of freedom that we would want, because it doesn't come with fulfillment. And to me, the kind of quote unquote top of the rock would be where you get to have both. You get to have success and fulfillment. And so I was stuck in this middle place. And I found that there were a lot of other people not talking about that middle place because there lacked terminology around it. And so that was some of the impetus for coming up with this name, Hitting Rock Middle, is that if we could create a term that could be shorthand for this period of our time, of our lives, and time frame where you may have achieved some success, but it's just not ultimately where you want to spend the rest of your life, that it lacks fulfillment, and that, maybe it just focuses on external success, that and not internal as well, that there can be a shorthand phrase for it. And then I think that people would be more accepting of it. And maybe other people won't face as much backlash as I did when they want to create change, that they can use this type of terminology to say, hey, I've hit rock middle, and other people can understand what that means and be able to say, yeah, go ahead then, create change. Because when they're at rock bottom, people come and help you and they want you to change. They will give you all the help in the world to change. But when you're at rock middle, most people don't want you to change. They discourage you. But I think that it's just because they lack knowledge of what it means and what it is. And again, all of this is just intended to provide some sort of commonality for people too. And I think if we can get that commonality where we know we're not alone in it and that there's a term to define it, then more and more people will be given that permission slip to create change and go forward and do it.
Permission slip. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. It's like, yes, you get a hall pass and you get a permission slip. Slips for everybody to actually get into this moment and realize it. And to actually change at that moment now as opposed to later when you actually get to that rock bottom. It's like, all right, let me change now while I'm in the middle. Like, let me not wait till the bottom moment.
Exactly. Yeah. There is no reason why you have to wait until you're absolutely miserable, right? The moment that you realize that you want to do something different, you can make that change. And yet we tend to, as both humans and certainly as career driven professionals, wait until things get worse, until the pain increases to make a change. And I don't want people to have to wait that long. It's just not necessary. I mean, but again, society tends to say, well, don't leave something that's successful to create something that's unknown. And yet my thought process now, having lived through it, is what if what you have now is the lesser version of success? What if the unknown is going to take you to a much better place than where you are today? And yet we don't consider that very often. And I would suggest that the unknown can be the path that will take you to the far greater level of success, both internal and external, when you have the courage to pursue it.
Sweet. And that's one thing that a lot of folks are probably going to be needing nowadays, especially now more than ever, because we're kind of in a phase now where entrepreneurship is this buzzword and it's like the thing to do and a thing to be. When truth be told, that's not for everybody, but you're able to take that leap and actually build some success for yourself out of it. So for those who may be looking to go into entrepreneurship, especially as a lovely young lady like yourself, any advice for the ladies out there who are looking to do the entrepreneurship thing from your experience?
Well, the first would be go and buy my book. Because it really is intended to be that roadmap, and it lays out a 7-step process for them to be able to really follow. But the very first thing that I tell my clients and anyone I work with is an old phrase that Dale Carnegie says, which is begin with the end in mind and start really thinking through what it is that you want to have and to create, instead of again, starting the next chapter with someone else's definition. Take the time to imagine what you want the end of your life to look like. Who is it that you ultimately want to become? And when you can imagine yourself at the end of your life and your career happy, joyful, successful, very often people will have envisioned a certain type of both income goals and lifestyle goals. And so when you imagine what those are, then you can begin to reverse engineer it all the way to what you ought to be doing today in order to reach those particular income and lifestyle goals. And what people tend to forget is that lifestyle has to be included. And we tend to forget that, the roadmap that we're creating better include the type of lifestyle you want to lead along the way. Otherwise, you're just going to get yourself into the same loop that you had last time, where you believe, again, through entrepreneurship, the same misunderstandings that if you just work hard enough, that you'll get there one day and you'll end up in this magical land. And that doesn't ever happen. So, we've got to make sure that we, build out that model that is built on our idea of success. So that's the best way to be able to do that.
Solid right there. Solid right there, indeed. Rock solid, yes, indeed. Because that's so true. Because especially to make sure you have the lifestyle piece of making sure you have the end in mind. Because a lot of folks, they want to get to that point, kind of like we mentioned at the beginning, and then not taking their lifestyle into consideration, especially their health in mind too, because that's the biggest thing. Because if you neglect your health, then that'll be even worse on your way to that point that you want to reach.
So true. Absolutely. Health is a big part of it. Yeah, I mean, otherwise, we've just burned ourselves out along the way, and you don't get to experience any of the joy that can come with the learning process. And that's a lot of what entrepreneurship is, isn't it? I mean, it's just one big journey of learning more about yourself and learning every day how to, reach and serve the people that you care about most.
Ah, yes, indeed. Like the family and friends, indeed. Because also hear that you have a twin sister.
I do have a twin sister. I am an identical twin. She is also an entrepreneur. So I've learned a great deal from her. She began her entrepreneurial journey before I did, and she's been very successful, owning one of the top women's clothing stores in the country. And so I'm very proud of her and all of the people that she employs and serves every day. So she's done an amazing job.
Woohoo! That's right. That's what I'm talking about. The AJ that we all desire. The amazing job. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Amazing job at anything, and not just the job that we have. So, since this isn't your first rodeo and you've been on this podcast train, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're doing interviews like this?
Oh gosh, I've never really thought about that. I think that it's important for everyone to really remember that perfection ultimately is not the goal. And I say that because I think that the question would likely be, what have you learned about yourself or about entrepreneurship along the way? And that's one of the biggest things, is that perfection is not the goal, that action is the goal. And that imperfect action is going to beat perfect inaction every day. And so staying in action is, I think, one of the things that entrepreneurs need to be cognizant of and always working towards, rather than sitting in this overthinking mode and self judgment mode that can sometimes come when you're an entrepreneur working by yourself for yourself. And so I've just learned that ultimately, you've got to learn by doing. And I wish that someone had really been honest with me at the very beginning to say, just imagine where it is that you want to go, take, reverse engineer the goal, and then just begin, because you're never going to be perfect at it. You're always going to have mistakes along the way, ups and downs, but at least then by taking the action, you're getting closer to where it is that you want to be.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about right there. Yes, indeed. Because the action is definitely the main thing. Because if you let yourself be stuck in that paralysis phase where you let your fears get in the way, the negative voices, and you try to research your way into the ground and you never move, then basically doing life for nothing.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, and I mean, maybe the second thing would be to focus on the productive income and revenue generating actions. I can't tell you how many times I'm coaching entrepreneurs and working with them, and I find that the bulk of their activities are being done just simply because it's going to make them look good versus it's going to have an ultimate purpose of generating revenue. So, I'm always bringing them back to following through on their actions and making sure that in some way, shape, or form that it is taking them closer to revenue generation rather than just taking action for the sake of taking action.
I love it. Because that, heck, even myself at times, like, yeah, let's do this thing. It's like, all right, so how much revenue you going to generate from this activity?
Mhm.
Crap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Bring it back, buddy. Bring it back. All right, now go ahead and get that magical paper right there. Keep yourself afloat. Keep
Hmm.
yourself afloat. Heck, not even just afloat, but also be able to eventually soar above the noise too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can't do that without being a little bit more focused on revenue.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's right. Focus on the revenue now as opposed to later, or there may never be a later.
Mhm. Sure.
Okay, that one needs to be written down somewhere. But yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, definitely want to respect your magical time here. So, coming down to the question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you were to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again in the year of 2020 with all of your amassed knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Gosh, the advice I would give to myself is that you're far more capable than you give yourself credit for. That you can pursue anything that you want. All you have to do is begin with a belief system in yourself, and then from there, anything is possible. So I wish that I'd known that at 25. I wish I had believed a little more in myself. And I think if I had, I wouldn't have, spent the 10 years practicing law and the 3 years in law school following someone else's model. So I would have been stronger and more focused on what my dreams were. So, yeah, that would definitely be my answer. Belief in yourself. It all starts there.
Ah, yes, indeed. That's a good starting point right there. That's right. Gotta have that good foundation. That good, strong foundation. Believe in yourself. Yes, indeed. The BIY instead of the DIY. Oh, yes, indeed. So, for those who want to keep in magical contact with the sensational Sally and need to buy some magical copies of your book, what's the best way for folks to do so?
They can just go on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com, either one. They have Hitting Rock Middle right there ready for you to purchase. So I hope you will.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Go ahead and snag a copy or 555 copies of Hitting Rock Middle, folks. Definitely need to pick up that book and add it to your library. Indeed, it's got some good stuff. I'm talking about good stuff where it's so good it's 20 O's and good. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, any parting words to folks still listening, Sally?
Believe in yourself, believe in the dreams that you have. And if you're feeling like you're hitting rock middle, then grab the book so that you can begin to make the change that you deserve in your life.
How's it going, you showstopper? It's great that you enjoyed this episode of the Going North podcast. If you really enjoyed it, be sure to shoot the guest an email or head over to the social media pages and leave them a nice response that you heard them on the Going North podcast, so that way they can continue to be inspired to do great things.